All right, everybody, welcome to today's webinar, SEO Tales of Horror. It's a gruesome look at frightening misfortunes that can befall websites and maim companies. We're having a little fun today on Halloween, and Brian Russell of our marketing team here at 352 Media Group is going to walk you through this webinar. Just a couple housekeeping things real quick. If you have any questions, please go ahead and submit those through the Questions tab on the right-hand side of GoToWebinar. There's also a chat function as well. You can ask things there. And if you have any questions or issues with audio or video, go ahead and mark those things there as well, and we'll look into them. We will also be recording the webinar to put up on our blog, 352media.com/blog, for if you missed anything or want to share it with anyone else after the fact. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Brian Russell.
Thank you for the introduction, Peter. Like you said, my name is Brian Russell. I'm with 352 Media Group. I will say I had a lot of fun putting together this presentation because there are a couple of things I love. I love online. I love telling stories. I love marketing, and I also enjoy horror/suspense movies. So with that, we'll go ahead and get rolling. So Brian Russell, part of the things that qualify me to give this presentation are I have interviewed the musician Rob Zombie, who is also a movie director, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, the recent reboots of the Halloween series. I don't recommend watching any of them because some of them can be a little horrific, but if that's your thing, go ahead. Also, I've interviewed Robert Englund, the actor behind Freddy Krueger. So with that said, before we get started, this presentation may contain movie spoilers, so just let that know. I won't give the whole plot away, but if you hadn't seen the movie, I might give away a key element. So the first thing, the first issue, the biggest issue that I've seen since coming to work here at 352 Media Group, and in this case it was a fatal error for this company. I call it the sixth sense, and it's months of work that no one else can see. This company that came to us, they had been working with another company for a couple of years, 5 figures a month for doing online marketing. And then when they came to us, they were kind of on their last leg saying, okay, how can we turn these around? And I started looking back to say, well, okay, well, what all have the previous people been doing? And the client had told us some things. It didn't really make a lot of sense, so I started digging into all that data that's available on the web. And here is a sample of what I found. So here you can see the site. I blurred it out for anonymity's sake. Google said, oh yeah, we have about 100 pages in that website that we've seen. The issue there was they had a couple thousand websites. They had every type, everything that they could have data on, they had data on their website. It was tons of content, tons of useful content for people who would be shopping in this segment. Unfortunately, they had their website set up so that parts of it were unreadable by Google, whether by robots.txt files or the information was embedded in a format that Google couldn't read or just chose not to. And that's kind of outlined here by all of this red. I went to Google Webmaster Tools, and it was popping up, hey, here are all these 404 errors that we found. There seems to be a redirect error, some sort of technical glitch that's keeping us from being able to get to that page. Just all sorts of horrible things that anyone who was doing work for them should have picked up on and addressed, especially over the course of a couple of years of working with them, again, at 5 figures a month. Domain authority, if you came to me and said, hey, we're looking to get started with some online marketing, and you showed me these statistics, I was like, oh, well, you're doing average. Like so domain authority here, it's a metric we use to grade how relevant we think Google will find the site, where do we think it would display in a search results page, and 30 out of 100 is your average web page, probably hasn't had any sort of marketing done. But again, for someone working with this guy called his previous group the Michael Jordans of online marketing. And if you said you had been working with the Michael Jordans of online marketing for a couple of years and these were your stats, I would totally not believe you. Because, I mean, there's no evidence that any sort of work had been done. And again, you can see the percentage of followed links to no followed links. So the links that they have coming into their website, the way in which Google would judge how credible, how authoritative this website is, all of the links coming into the site nearly were not passing any sort of credibility along to this client's website. So he was getting nothing from these people. So again, the sixth sense, because there was no way to see months of work no one else can see. So the happily ever after to this, so inbound marketing, it is a process, but absolutely expect tangible results. There's no such thing as a secret sauce or work that can't be seen. There are, there are metrics, and you should go into your project with metrics that you expect to see an improvement on, and if they're doing the right things to try and move that number, you should be able to see something. So this next one I call the fly, making decisions based on gut feeling rather than data. So with the web, there is an abundance of information out there that you can harvest. Hopefully, if you have a website and you're listening to this call, you have some sort of analytics software installed. You might not be looking at all the data that's there now, but go ahead and start collecting it, because then when you're ready to, you can go back and look to see how your website's performing. Because if you're not holding that website accountable, if you're not, what doesn't get measured doesn't move. So you need to be measuring so that you can, impact your business. If you're in business and your end goal should be to be profitable, and your website should be helping you out. So here is an example I have of a company that they were doing something online, but they weren't letting the data impact their decisions. They were going mostly by gut feeling of, okay, these are, in this case, AdWords. They were running an AdWords campaign that you see there, cost of $135,474. And this was over the course of a couple of years they had done this for 21 conversions. I'm no math major, and this client they provide a very specialized piece of equipment, but 21 conversions, 21 leads for their website. These aren't actually even sales. 21 leads for them at a cost of $135,000 was way off the mark. There is data in your Google AdWords platform that you can use, that you can analyze, and you can make better decisions about, okay, which ones of these keywords are actually relevant for us to show ads to. And I have one of my first conversations with this client was, well, yeah, I was thinking we'll go ahead and run some baseline metrics, but we will probably decide to pause the AdWords campaign on Saturdays and Sundays because it looks like the business crowd is not in the mood to shop for this type of product on Saturdays and Sundays. And he said, well, actually, I found quite the opposite. And I was like, well, wow, that's great. What sort of data can you share with me that backs that up? And his response was that he just knew. And as you can see, just knowing can lead to this kind of cost with this kind of lead metric. And when we did the math on this, we found out that they would have to spend somewhere between $17 million and $21 million in order to make a sale at this rate. And at that cost, it was surprising. I was surprised that they were that far along into their goal because the data should have been showing some red flags beforehand. So happily ever after for this, go ahead and get analytics installed. If you have people coming to your website, but maybe they're not becoming leads or becoming sales at the rate that you would expect, there are tools for multivariate testing. So people come to your website, and Group A will get one version of the website, or a conversion page, where either the lead is created or the sale is made. And Group B will get a different version of that page. It could be anything from changing the placement of where the lead form is or where the click to buy button is. You could test the color of the button. You could test, like, maybe one version has a video on the page, another one doesn't have a video. But you can test all these different things pretty simply and figure out which one works best for you, which one helps you get the results that you deserve. You can take a look at conversion rates. Okay, so I did these things. Which ones are leading to better conversions for our website? If you're doing email marketing, you can test. Again, you can do multivariate testing to see which ones, for instance, subject line impacts email open rates, or which subject line increases people to click through to your website from the email. I mean, there's so much data out there that you can harvest. Probably the biggest thing is figuring out where you want to start first with all this data that you have. But there's absolutely no reason to go solely on gut feeling. This next one I call the craft, knowing just enough to summon something you can't control. So there are a lot of people out there who say they know search engine optimization and online marketing, inbound marketing, whatever you want to call it. And there are a lot of people who know some things. Not as many have I found that know everything. And for instance, the person who works on your network probably doesn't have an expertise in digital marketing. They might know some things, but there really is an expertise, a finesse that comes with focusing on the skill set. So here's an example of a company who had worked with us, but then decided to go with another shop who all they did was they designed websites, and they were going to let them handle their online marketing. So here up top we see visits to the website, and below we see goal completions. And they went through some pretty dramatic changes after they left us, and here you can see the impact of what happened on those changes. To the right of the red line is after they left us, and you can see through those changes, Google looked at those changes and said, "Oh, you're not relevant to those things which you should be relevant to." So when people typed in like the keywords that people would type in to find this kind of website, their site was no longer showing up in as great a rate as it had previously, and correlated to that is the number of people who were completing goals on the website also dropped. So it's a warning tale to going with someone who doesn't focus on this type of work. So happily ever after, there aren't any magic spells. Kind of like I said earlier, there aren't any magic spells to it. It's just looking at, okay, so how would someone get to my website? What would they be looking for? What types of words or phrases would they type into Google to try and find my website? Does this page give them the information that they would want? Is this call to action really compelling for someone who is in that mind frame, that mindset? And that's generally the basics of online marketing, is to answer those questions. It can get a lot more complicated than that, just like the Google algorithm can get a lot more complicated than that. But as long as you use, and what I put in on the internet, is it making the internet better? Is it good for visitors? As long as you follow those North Stars and let those guide your decisions, like you're on the right path. But that said, if you're trying to do tricks of like, hey, what's this little thing where I kind of figured out like a loophole, and when I do this, this happens, and wow, this is great, that's a mistake that can come back and haunt you. And I go into a little bit more of that later on. So kind of akin to that, so when a stranger calls, it's the first time in movie history where they used the phrase like he's calling from inside the house. It had been a part of like Campfire Tales and stuff before that, but this was the first movie to use the line. So I matched this up with sabotage, whether it's intentional or unintentional. It could be someone who's well-meaning, but just a lack of information in that area, or only knowing part of the information can really lead to like damaging consequence. So this next one is an example of an organization's search engine result. And I came across this organization. It's a pretty large organization, a collective, I would say, because one of our other clients would probably want to get a link from these people because it's a pretty respectable organization. So I went to their website and I was like, wow, they are really hard to Google. Like, why can I not find out this group's website? So I did some digging and stuff, and then I got to the website and I was like, why is it so hard to Google? And then I saw they had set their robots.txt file to disallow Google. So it's a file that is uploaded to the root of your website, and it can tell Google, hey, come on in, or hey, Google, here are a couple of pages that I don't want you to go to. But in this case, it was telling Google, stay away, which for an organization like this is contradictory to what they would want. So I called up the lady who seemed like she would be over all of this, and I said, hey, I noticed this. Is this intentional? And she said, oh, well, our web designer, he said we needed to do this because of, and the explanation she was giving didn't make any sense to me. So I said, well, just so you know, because of that, like here's what Google's seeing, and what it was Google was not seeing anything. So here you can see that the title is showing up as home, and the description, Google's saying, sorry, I couldn't pull the description from that page because I'm not allowed to go there. Like I explained to her, hey, this is what's happening. She was like, oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I'll get in touch with the web developer, and he'll make the changes. And he did make the changes to the robot.txt file, fixed it. But as soon as he fixed that, on every page of the website, another piece of code was inserted. So on a page level, telling Google, hey, don't go to this page, 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 over and over again. So I'm not sure whether it was like intentional sabotage or just an honest mistake, but whatever it is, it's sandbagging that business. It's not doing them any favors. So there's plenty to look out for in the ways of sabotage, again, whether intentional or unintentional. First one, you can go to whatever your URL is. So website.com/ and then robots.txt. See if you have a robots.txt file, and if you do, watch out for this disallow : /. If you see that, that is telling Google, stay away from this website. Now, there might be sections of your website that you don't want Google to visit, and it would be perfectly fine if it said disallow : /admin or something like that. But again, the big one is like anywhere where content would be, and absolutely if it says disallow : / and you expect website traffic from search engines, that's going to hurt you. The next thing would be on a page level to look out for a piece of code like on a page level that's telling robots like no index, no follow. That's saying Google, don't come here, don't index this, don't follow any of these links, like go away. And another thing would be to look for a canonicalization tag in the code of your site. So canonical, it is a way to tell Google So there might be different versions of this page, but the canonical is the one that should be getting all the credit. So if all of the pages of your website have a canonical tag set to the home page, then Google's going to say you'll have only one page of your website. So if someone's looking for a product or a service, they're probably not going to be able to find it. All they're going to be able to find is just your company name in search results. This next one I call Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it is duplicate content. Duplicate content can happen internally or externally. So here, for example, a quick way to diagnose whether you have been body snatched is, in this case by yourself, is to do site : and then whatever your URL is. So in this case, I looked at a website, www.theirurl.com, and went to the last page of the Google search results. And then you might have seen this previously where Google says, hey, I found 563 other pages that are very similar to the ones that I've already shown you. If you want me to show those again, I can. So in this case, there are two versions of pretty much every page in their website. And what that does is it wastes Google's time. So when they send their robot to your website, they only have a limited amount of time and resources that they can use to spider the content on your website and categorize it and say what it's relevant towards and all those different things that they're doing when they're on your website. Well, if there is like a double version of your website, it's going to spend all its time. It's going to cut in half the amount of time that your actual content's getting crawled. So you don't want to waste Google's time. You want to make sure that you're giving them the best use of their time possible when they're on your website and getting all the fresh information that's up there. But another part is you would also be splitting all those links of credibility and authority that you're getting. If there are two versions of that website and some of the links go to one version of that page and some of them go to the other version, then you're splitting up your votes. And you would like for all those votes to be going towards like the one page. So some ways that this happens is, so www.url.com is a different website than url.com. So if you can access your website by www.url.com and url.com, like there in that is what stays in the address bar, then there's an issue there. That there could be a possible duplicate content issue. If you have a canonical page or a canonical tag on each page that says the www version is the one that should be getting all the credit, then you'll be all right, because sometimes there are like technical issues that keep that from being possible. But you would want to make sure that you have that canonical tag there, otherwise you're splitting it. Another thing to look for, and I see this frequently, is, so for instance, it could be www.url.com, www.url.com/index.html, or www.url.com/default.aspx. So each time one of those shows up, that again, it generally shows the home page, but it's showing the home page with a different URL. So it's, again, if someone links to one and someone links to another, it's splitting the vote. So you want to make sure that all the credit's being passed to, like, whichever one you choose should be the prime one. So things to do would be, for internal issues, you can check with Google. Like I showed you there, you can go site : type in your URL, and go to the last page and see if Google does that thing where it says, hey, we found a whole bunch of other pages that are similar to the ones we've already shown you. If that happens, then you probably have a duplicate content issue. Another thing would be to check your CMS. Again, some CMS have like an issue that it can be fixed, but some of them out of the box have a duplicate content issue with, again, like it shows an index.html or a default.aspx, which shows the same information that would be on the home page. And again, so in that URL, capitalization makes a difference. So default.aspx, all lowercase, or default.aspx, all uppercase, those in Google's eyes are separate pages and could potentially show different content. But in most cases, it shows the same content, and again, it's splitting the vote. A way to look if someone externally is doing the body snatching would be a service like Copyscape. There are a bunch of other services like it. If you want to find out more, you can go to Google, type in Copyscape, then space VS period, so Copyscape versus, and it'll give you some other suggestions of those types of sites. But at Copyscape, you can enter in your URL, and it will, from having crawled the web itself, look for other pages that have that same information. Or if you have, if you want to do it yourself in Google, you can find like some clever turns of phrases in your website, Google those, and you can look to see if somebody else, maybe a competitor, is ripping off some of your copy. This next one I call the ring. I had some trouble trying to figure out how to classify this one, the no title, no description, but I settled on the ring because if you're not setting the title and description for each page of your website, a unique title and description for each page of your website, you might as well be throwing that page in a well, and it's going to come back and kill you. So if you're familiar with the Ring movie, that's kind of what happens. So in this case, this is a website, like a major organization website. The title I blurred out because it is the URL. The URL is there in the green part also, and then the URL is there in the description. Your title and description is your opportunity to, in a search engine results page, which is how most people get to websites nowadays. Like some people do have bookmarks, or some people just click on it through other links on the internet. But what I see is 50% of the time someone goes to Google and types in something to try and find your website. So set your title and description, especially, like you might have a whole bunch of pages, you might be like behind in having done this, but what you need to do is figure out what are your top landing pages, what are the most important pages of your website, and go ahead and set the title and description for those. The title, it's this thing in blue, it's about 70 characters long, and it is your first chance to grab the searcher's attention to say, hey, this is why I'm relevant to that thing you're searching for. The description, it's about 155 characters long, and it is your chance to close the deal, to get them to click your link rather than those other 9 on the page, or often more when you include the ads and some of the places listings that may appear. But I mean, it's marketing 101. It is your chance to grab their attention and close the deal. And if you're not setting it, it's a lost opportunity. For instance, one client we had, the first thing out of the box I did was I looked at their home page. They had a poor title and a poor description that weren't really relevant to, didn't mean anything to people who would be searching for those types of products. So I changed the title, changed the description. I was fortunate in that Google picked up on the change pretty quickly. And within 24 hours, actually within like 3 or 4 hours, had begun showing that title and description in some search results. And by about 24 hours later, it was still not showing up in every search result. Sometimes you were getting the new information, sometimes you were getting the old information. But even with it not showing 100% of the time, that 24-hour period where I made that change, immediately after I made that change, which is remarkable to me, there was a 24% increase in click-throughs on their listing in search results. There was no sort of improvement in how they were ranking, because like to float up in ranking takes a little bit longer. So this 24% was just based on speaking to people, speaking to searchers in a more friendly way, not using your lingo or all your buzzwords and stuff, but really talking to them and like, hey, this is our brand, and this is what we can do for you, and this is why we're better than any other like listing on this page. And by doing that, again, 24% click-through rate. I think through the first 30 days with them, as things continue to improve, the number of leads coming in through the website improved by 24%. Then like another 30 days later, it was 55%. So something so like seemingly minor can have such a big impact. So this next one I call I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it is like bad, harmful links. It might have seemed good at the time, some sort of trick or loophole that you could exploit in order to get a better search results ranking. And it could have been you. It could have been people you hired. It could have been a well-meaning employee. It could have been someone else. But, I mean, it happens, and it's something to be wary of. You don't have to be too exceptionally wary unless you know you've done these things. And here was a page I found yesterday on the internet. You see, like, I'll get you 4 whopping PR4 edu links for 25 bucks. So again, all of these that are listed here are, hey, I can get you like something amazing for really cheap. I've got something too good to be true. And as it turns out, it is too good to be true because Google's very, I mean, they know what's going on, and they're constantly with all their penguins and pandas and all of that other stuff, all of these algorithm changes to the tune of like it averages out to a couple of algorithm changes per day. They're swatting down these efforts of people trying to perform trickery, to try and get a better result by not providing anything useful to the web. As long as you continue to provide something useful to the internet, something that makes the internet better, and something that's better for your customers, you're doing the right thing. So if you're worried about any of these things, there are tools out there that will help you look at your links so you can see, like, are you getting links from onlinegamblingsite.com or like other things that just don't seem to add up, especially if you have a whole bunch of links from sites like that. Another thing is to be tuned in to what others are doing on your behalf. If you are working on it with an agency, they should be able to explain to you what they're doing in a way that makes you feel good and that what they're doing seems legitimate, and you wouldn't have an issue telling anybody like what they've been up to. Another thing would be to get set up with Google Webmaster Tools. Google Webmaster Tools has begun to notify its users that, hey, we know there's something fishy with your website. You might want to take a peek at this. And by receiving those notifications, like you have a better idea of when you need to take a look. And this one I call Frankenstein's Monster. It's a page it's lost its focus, and it's now cobbled together of many different parts. So say your site launches, and I'm not sure whatever process you went through to get that site originally launched, but after it's launched, you go, you know what, maybe we want to tweak that page a little bit, and we need to add in this other department. We didn't add in that department the first go around, but now they need to have a presence on there. So just like cobble something together, add that in, and then a few months later, oh, you know what, we need to add this other thing on there too. I didn't think about it originally, but now that also needs to have a presence on that page. And by the end of it, you have so many different pieces cobbled together that the visitor who arrives at that page is going to have no idea what's going on. It's not going to be very clear to them what the next step they need to do if they're interested in doing business with you. what they need to do in order to get that ball rolling. And I see it very frequently. And this one's kind of a more close-to-home example of something like this. I don't know how long it's going to take you to figure out what exactly this website is for. It's for a restaurant near here. And, I mean, it seems like they just kept finding pieces of driftwood on the beach and then just kept adding it to their website because it would be nearly impossible to figure out that. Another kind of little inside joke here is they have the copyright trademark protection here up on the left, but then they have, I'm not sure who's the lion's from, but I know it's from some big movie studio, and they probably don't have permission for that, but inside joke. But yeah, this is just horrible. It in no way makes me want to eat at this place, and especially considering that this place is home to their sandwiches are around $12. And so they do have a beach location, and I can understand paying $12 for a sandwich at a beach location. With that beachy feel, sure, maybe. But they have a location right around the corner from here, and this in no way speaks to me as kind of more expensive seafood restaurant that just kept getting tacked onto, and now it's just plain tacky. So my suggestions for a happily ever after, bring marketing in early. Figure out, okay, who are we trying to talk to with this website? What's our goal? Okay, now what pages do we need to have? Now what sort of focus do we need to have on those pages that lead people to contact us, to become a lead for us, to make a purchase from us, and then also to look at how people would search for people like us, make sure that we're integrating those words into our pages so that we're speaking to them in their language. Yeah. So this next part is, if you have any questions for me, this is in no way an exhaustive list of all of the horrible things that can happen, but it is the top of mind first ones that I see on an everyday basis. And if you can address these and be aware of these, then I think that you can survive. I won't be yelling at the screen, no, don't do that, like I do at most of these horror movies. So with that, I'm free to answer questions.
So one question we have here, Brian, is there's a lot of things talked about. Don't know if they're necessarily in order of importance. What would be the first takeaway for me to actually go and check on my site? What's the most important thing for me to check here?
That is a good question. So the first thing I would look at would be, what's the purpose of my website? And are we measuring the results that this website is giving for us? Do we have analytics installed? Or do we have goals set up on our website so that we can track when someone contacts us? And just, are you collecting the data? The next step is analyzing the data and trying to figure out what it means, but the first step is to begin collecting the data. And then with data, you can make informed decisions rather than gut decisions. So that would be priority number one.
I've got a question here. Is there such thing as too much in terms of, I guess they're asking, doing too many things on the SEO side where you're compromising the design? I mean, we saw the restaurant example where obviously the design is compromised, but not necessarily for SEO reasons. But it sounds like most of the things you were talking about were more in the code. And
yeah, and so there are parts in the code, but overall it comes down to the user's experience. And design is about user experience, and SEO is my contribution to the user experience of making it easy for them to find us, because they might not know my company's name or my product's name, but if they what would they go to Google to type in to try and find me? And as an SEO, it's my job to make sure that it's as easy as possible for them to go to Google, type in whatever they might think they need to type in so that they can find me.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of a rule of thumb to remember that Google is, despite what you may think about them, their main goal from a search perspective is to actually provide the most relevant results. So if your site is good for the user, then it's probably good for the search engines as well in a lot of those cases.
That's right.
Well, those were all the questions that we had. If you think of any other questions after the fact, please go ahead and send those into us by email. Respond to there's Brian's email there. You can go ahead and ask questions there, or on our blog when we put up the recording, which will probably be tomorrow. But I guess that's it. So everyone have a safe and happy Halloween, and thank you very much, Brian. And we'll let you know where the archive is going to be.
And so I have my Twitter handle up there. You can tweet me at any time because I'm always thinking about these types of things, and I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I can contribute. Because again, I see a lot of people pitching secret sauce, and this like we do have this top secret thing that we do, but there's nothing really top secret about it. It's just like basic things. It's the execution that's the tough part.
So you're always thinking about SEO or about horror movies?
Both.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody.